Hello and welcome to another Wltoys video. Thanks for tuning in. So today I'll just be doing a comparison between the Feiyue and the Wltoys here. At first I'll just be talking about how they handle and how they drive and whatnot. And then I'll talk about parts compatibility and go over that a bit. Now for the parts compatibility, I did find a thread on rcgroups.com. I believe the thread starter's name was Jim73. He did an excellent thread comparing all the parts and what fits and what doesn't, so I'll put a link in the description below if you want to go check that out fully for yourself. So now that I got that out of the way, let's get started with the radios. Now unfortunately I don't know where my Feiyue stock radio is, so I'll just have to talk about it. But the stock radio for the Wltoys here is right here. It's very simple. Got your steering trim, on-off switch, steering obviously right there, your throttle. It takes 4 AA batteries. It's a very basic controller. The one for the Feiyue is still fairly basic. It has steering trim, throttle trim. It does have a movable steering wheel, so you can do right and left handed, which is very nice. Usually it's only more expensive controllers that have that option, so that's very nice to see. It also has a switch to change the throttle settings, so you can have 50-50, like backwards and forwards, or 70% forwards, 30 back. Now that's not this controller, obviously that's the one for the Feiyue, but I don't have that one, so I can't show it to you specifically. So in terms of radios, the Feiyue wins, hands down. In terms of handling, they're very similar. In fact, they're so similar, I can't really pick which one would win. There's only one really tiny difference in them, and that is weight. This is not a stock Feiyue, but it's pretty close to the stock Feiyue weight. And this is obviously stock here, and they're very similar in weight. The Wltoys just edges it just a little bit in weight, and I believe that is basically due to the motor. Now the Wltoys has a 540 motor, about this size, and the Feiyue has a 390 brushed motor about this size. So as you can see, pretty big size difference in motors. So yeah, this one has a bigger motor, smaller motor. So that's probably what the weight difference is right there. And that barely affects handling. They're pretty I would say they handle so close that I couldn't really say which one is better for handling. So yeah, they're basically the same. You do get more top speed with Wltoys. This is good for about 40 kilometers an hour in stock form, whereas the Feiyue is good for about 30 kilometers an hour in stock form. Another advantage to the Feiyue, even though it's a little slower, is you get more runtime. Now on the stock, on the stock 1500 milliamp battery for the Feiyue, I could get between 10 to 18 minutes depending on how I was driving. If I was on throttle hard all the time, 10 minutes, battery's dead. But if I was just being leisurely going down a trail or something, I could get 18-20 minutes on the stock battery. Now when I was testing out the Wltoys on the stock battery, about 6 minutes in, dead. I was pretty hard on the throttle, so I was like, well, okay, it's cold out too, so that's another factor that's going to make the battery not last as long. So I tried it out on this 2000 milliamp hour Venom battery, and I still had 6 or 7 minutes before it cut out. And it was still cold out, so that's probably affecting it a bit. But definitely I think because of the bigger motor, I think it's drawing more power, you're just going to get less runtime overall. So that's just something to consider. You'll probably get a little more runtime, not quite as faster, not quite as much runtime. So that's a fairly important thing to consider when you're buying it, which one you prefer. So that's another one of the major differences, and there's really only those couple. So now that we know they both handle pretty much the same in cornering and whatnot, how about jumping? Well, they jump fairly well. This one here does have completely different suspension. It's a lot softer than the stock suspension, so it's not nearly as bouncy. But if you see here, I lift this up and drop it, you can see how bouncy that is. So it does take jumps fairly well, but it can bounce. I've had a few times where vehicles have come down, bounced, and flipped over because I've just bounced too much. But overall, it's not really that big of a deal. They do work fairly well for that. So now that we've talked about how they all handle and whatnot, let's talk about the parts differences. So let's just get started with the tires. There's only one small difference on the tires. On the Feiyue here, you can see it's got a very small groove. And on the Wltoys, you can see the groove is a little bit bigger. So that's really the only difference in the wheels and tires. Other than that, they're completely compatible with each other. No problem. Now all the tie rods, they are compatible. I believe the Feiyue ones are just slightly shorter by a tiny amount, but they are both compatible with each other. The front differential and the front drive shafts are not. And the front differential cover is not. And these metal brackets that hold the front suspension arms are not compatible with each other. However, the front suspension arms themselves are compatible. So you could switch those around or whatever. The roll cages themselves are close to being compatible, but not quite 100% compatible. And there is one fairly major difference you can probably see at the back there is Wltoys, it sticks down a lot further in the back, as you can see. Let's look underneath these. So these rear suspension arms are compatible. The rear drive shafts are not. Now on the Feiyue, on the bar coming out here that connects the drive shaft, it's got a hole through it for this set screw to go through. On the Wltoys, it's got two flat spots shaved into the metal rod coming out, and then there's a set screw on each side that's pinching it to hold it on. So those are not compatible. As you can see, the rear diffs are different sizes. So the diffs themselves are not compatible either. Although I do believe you could probably use the Feiyue diff, the whole, like if you took the entire diff case and everything off and switched them over, you probably could get that to work. You would just have to change something up in the drive shaft. So as you can see, there's some parts that are compatible and some parts that aren't. This bottom tray is not compatible. As you can see, it's a little different. And the lights definitely are not compatible with each other. They've got completely different mounting holes. On this, on the Wltoys, it's pretty close together, and on the Feiyue, they're pretty far apart, and they screw into the top differently too. So now that you guys have seen a few of the parts compatibility and whatnot, I hope it was very informative. And if you have any questions, just ask them in the comments below, and I'll answer. So I hope this was very informational for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.